Welcome to another episode of Discover St. Cloud, Florida. I'm Kristen McCary, and I'm here with your host,
Janine Corcoran, broker for the Corcoran Connection, a real estate company.
That's awesome. And so we did this a couple of weeks ago. We did the market statistics in St. Cloud, Florida for September. So tell me what happened in October.
Oh, wow. Well, in October, we had we're talking single family homes, not condos and all that. So with 167 sold just for the month of October. And you'll never guess. Let's see if you can. Can you guess, out of all different types of financing that went on, whether it's financing, FHA, VA, conventional, cash, owner financing, of those categories, I'm going to put VA and FHA in the same category. Which one had the most sales at 167 homes?
Okay. Clarifying question, because this is how my mind works. What was the median sales price?
I don't think I have that because we went very high to very low.
Okay. I'm going to guess cash was probably up there, but that's if it was under 400,000.
So out of 167 homes, when you say cash, like how many do you think?
33%, about a third of them?
About a third of them, which would be at 167 divided by 3. I don't know. Whatever that number is. Anyway.
I'm going to do it now.
Okay, well, I'm gonna help. So what is that percentage?
Let's see. 167 times.
And I'm going to tell you that she's going to be wrong.
Well, that my percentage was 33%.
No, I know you're 33%. Okay, so anyway, we had 85 conventional loans.
Okay.
85, and then
so it's half.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Good math, quick. Okay, so half were conventional loans, and then the next 41 of the 167 was cash.
Yeah.
And then we had...
So it's about 25%.
Yeah, so we had FHA and VA at 30, and then believe it or not, we had 11 owner financing, which I had no idea that there were that many owners. I mean, I do come across that.
Right.
But I was surprised.
I wonder what kind of properties those were. I wonder if they were unique or special.
Yeah, I do know someone personally that did that through owner financing and picked up a nice property and even had a property it even had an extra property building there that he's renting out to someone else.
Right.
So I mean, it was a good deal,
right.
The owner's financing, and it gave him a great rate. Like, it didn't, usually with owner financing, you'll say, 5-6% or 8%, something like 9-10%. Yeah. But no, he got a good rate. So that's awesome.
That's great. And how did that compare to the overall numbers? I know we probably don't have it broken down by what type of financing it had, but how was that your sold numbers for October of 2021 compared to October of 2020?
Well, it's interesting. We get our local market stats also for the county from our association. And on single-family homes in 2021, we had 652 homes sell. And last year, 621. So there wasn't much of a change there. But our medium home price right now for October, $379, $330. So that was a question you asked earlier. And last year it was $285. So that's like a 33% increase.
Right. That's close to $100,000 on an increase. But that's countywide. So that's all of Osceola County. Which
right. It's single family homes. That's it. Not
right.
condos. Not yeah.
Right.
So I mean, that's just a big change.
Yeah.
And then the inventory supply last year was 2.5 months, and this October is 1.1 month. So basically, if there were no more houses put on the market and we only had what was left right now, it would take 1 month
to sell everything. That's crazy. That's really low. So, and for people who aren't aware of like month supply, what that means, I mean, that's essentially, like you said, it's how many months it would take to sell the existing inventory. But what would you consider a healthy market? Like if, buyers or sellers aren't really necessarily favored, it's just a healthy market. What is that?
Well, I was always told about 6 months. I mean, that's usually what they say is 6 months. Inventory supply is what is a healthy market, so, and we haven't seen that in a long time. We've been in a seller's market for quite some time. So sellers, I mean, the increase in your equity right now has gone up substantially. So don't think in your head, well, because I've had people ask me this, well, maybe I'll wait another 2 years and see how much more it will go up. That's bad thinking,
Right.
I mean, it's not the right time for everyone to sell, but if you're going to sell,
Right.
and you're thinking about it, now's the time because
Right.
it's a seller's market. It's strong,
Right. Absolutely. And, I mean, of course, you're on the flip side of that. If you don't have anywhere to go, you probably
Yes.
shouldn't sell your house.
And we talk about that all the time. Yeah, if you don't have a place to go, I've had people move in with family. I had people go to short-term rentals. Short-term rentals work well for people who want to be the buyer in this market, but don't want the pressure of having a house sale contingency. So,
Right.
Being in a short-term rental, you have your money in the bank. Now you're a strong buyer.
Right. It's a lot easier to win those bids.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
That's crazy. So what other kind of statistics do you have for us about the housing market in St. Cloud?
So another thing I have is land. So it's always fun to look at land because I think land's a scarcity, and there's only so much land you have, and sooner or later it's all built. So I think land is a good investment right now. And so we had our lowest piece of land was actually not far from here. It was the first one is on Earl of Bronson, which is 192 in the 34773 area code. So this is east of Narcousie Road, and it only sold for $5,000. Do you have any?
Yeah, so that one actually, if you take a look at it, it's actually in suburban estates. So
Okay,
those aren't really
yeah.
buildable lots. It's just kind of to own your piece of the
Yeah.
mudding area.
Yeah. People bring, they
know?
do. They bring out their four-wheelers or do whatever. So yeah, that's typical of that. What about the highest one? The one that sold on Jack Brack. That one sold for $1.6 million. How big of a lot was that? And that was in 34771. So you're going down Narcousie, going towards Lake Nona.
That's 24.25 acres, 24.25 acres.
Wow. So that is.
That's a huge development area, really.
So guess what you think might be going there? Probably.
Probably a subdivision. If I were to guess, if
wonder
I were
how
a
many
betting
houses
woman.
can they get on that 24 acres? That's sweet.
I know. You got to think if you could do 8 to 10 per acre,
Yeah,
that's quite a few houses.
That's
Interesting density.
Yeah, I mean, so we didn't have that many land sales in October. We had 1, 2, 3. 16 for the month of October. The highest one is the 1.6 million, and the lowest one we talked about, was only $5,000, not buildable. But that's just a good thing. I came across there was a lot. It was I believe it was it was like 2.5, almost 3 acres. Had a manufactured home on it. The manufactured home was newer, and it sold for $185. And I was like, how did I miss that?
Right.
Like, that would have been perfect. $185 and just have that land, and then just use and because the manufactured home was new, you could put also the rentals, there's a shortage.
Right.
And then there are rentals that are just gone skyrocketed,
Right.
So, but that would have been a great piece of land because they're taking all these lots that have manufactured homes in certain, like the Manor, which is the back of 34772 area in St. Cloud, and they're building there. You'll have a beautiful custom home on a 2.5 to 5 acre lot, and then next to it is your manufactured home.
Right.
So I think that would have been a great investment to buy that, put a tenant in it, just keep it until someone, wants to buy the land, because then you have, you already have your electrics already brought to the property. There's just so many advantages to already having something there. So
Yeah.
so
That's
there's still deals out there. So
There are.
you just have to be on the lookout to look for them.
Right. You could also live in the manufactured home while you build your dream home.
Yes.
That's kind of how I feel like a lot of those probably start is you have the manufactured home and then you're like, oh, let me build a house, and that's someplace to live in. But yeah, that's crazy. There are still diamonds in the rough. I can't believe that amount of acreage went for that little. You said 2.5 acres?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting how I found that was I was pulling comps to go on a listing appointment for someone who had 2.5 acres of manufactured home. And I had her, like her lot, I had her up, I think somewhere between 275 and 300, and her home was older. Like it was like, ready.
Right.
But I could picture someone living in her home and building a house.
Right.
There was construction going on next door, brand new, builders building a beautiful home.
Right.
People on the other side, they already had a nice home. So she's just like the little right in the middle. But that's when I saw that comp, because I was
Right.
pulling it around the same around the same acreage,
Interesting.
and I was like, oh my goodness, how did that one slip through?
Right, that's interesting.
So, I don't know if there's a story behind that. Could be.
Well, listen, sometimes it's, it's about the marketing of the property, like just listing it in the MLS isn't necessarily enough. We found that out with the lake house that my brother would manage to snatch up. It was sitting on the market for almost a year, and, just really not very well presented, I think, to people, that they just didn't even bother going to look at it because something must be wrong with it, and he just got a steal with that. So there are deals to be had. You just got to kind of be able to look past that and really dig in and do your research. So really cool. Was there anything else that you found in, the statistics?
No,
in St. Cloud?
that was really it. I mean, it's just it's quite interesting what's happening. What's happening in the area. The back to the single family homes. The smallest one that sold, well, not the smallest one. It's actually the lowest price one that sold was for $150, and it was on Missouri Avenue. So it was 1610 Missouri, which is the other side of 192, not the lakeside. It was listed at 175, and somebody got it for 150, which that surprised me. I don't have the picture of the house here, but it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. It was built in 1930, as is downtown St. Cloud has a lot of the older homes, and it was 1,028 square feet. And it never fails that we have a lawn guy outside the building.
Right.
We can never figure. There's no rhyme or reason, but I'm sorry about that. What are you going to do? But that one sold at 145 a square foot. Well, almost 146 a square foot.
Right.
And that was the lowest one. So the highest one that sold, actually. We had one on Rummel that sold for 800,000. That's like right by our office, and that was $799. It was listed for $799, $990, and it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 3267 square feet. It was built in 1993, but that was a good one. And then one in Harmony that sold for $825, listed at $864, sold for $825. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was a 4,600 square foot home. Oof, big difference.
Yeah.
So the one on Rummel, that was $240, almost $45 per square foot, and the one in Harmony came out $178 a square foot.
Right.
Interesting. Back to that square foot number.
Right. Absolutely. And, it's funny because we had this conversation earlier about how, agents like, agent and consumers like the price per square foot number. It's a great statistic, but that it doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot because there's so many things that go into
it's just
valuing a property.
Yeah, too many variables.
Right.
Upgrades. It's just,
which I feel like, let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think Zillow used the price per square foot model.
Yes.
They didn't really look at the houses that they were buying and how to value them
talk
properly.
about a loss. So,
I know.
Just,
which again, as agents, we've made fun of Zillow and there's estimate for years. There's a lot of things you trust more than that, and I think it just was kind of enlightening for everybody to see that agents weren't just saying that because there was somebody new in the marketplace. They genuinely were just like, hey, that number's probably not accurate. And here's why.
I used to print out the estimate every listing appointment I went, because consumers would say, well, Zillow said,
Right.
so I wanted to know what Zillow said. But it's computer generated.
It is.
Just like we have on our county does the same thing for us. It just grabs an area. It might go within 2 or 3 miles of the home. It doesn't matter what the home was, whether, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't compare apples to apples. The difference between that and what an appraiser does and what most realtors do is basically try to compare apples to apples as best we can.
Right.
Right. So we have subject property and try to find the comps that
match that.
Yeah.
Down to the finishes. I mean, like
Yeah.
if you've recently remodeled your entire you have an older home and you've remodeled the entire inside of your house, why should you be compared to somebody who had a house built in the same time frame as yours, but it's all original?
Right.
Like it's not apples to apples, and they can't. Those computer generated models can't differentiate between those two because they're all the same. They'll look at the year of the house and they'll look at the square footage, but they can't compare what's been done to a property, which is why it's so important to, I think that realtors still play a very important
Sure,
part in the real
absolutely.
estate process, looking out for you and making sure that you get the best bang for your buck. So that's, little crazy. But if you're interested in finding out what your house is worth, if you're
Yeah.
interested in selling and helping the whole inventory shortage problem, please.
It doesn't hurt for a phone call.
yeah.
I mean, sometimes we just go and talk to people and, just talk through the process. I met, I was walking into an establishment. It was a school establishment, and one of the teachers said to me, Janine, I know you're in real estate, but we would just like to kind of lay our thoughts out. And they weren't necessarily thinking of moving. They didn't know, like, they had a daughter. Should they give basically, they just wanted an advisor. Like, let me lay out the plan. What's your advice?
Right.
Which is what we do. And I always tell people, it's like, it's your money. I could tell you what I would do. Was that this episode or the other one?
Yeah, different one, I think.
Because we talked about, I had a woman who wanted to pay, she was paying cash. It was like $300,000. And she said to me, would you pay cash for it or would you get finance? And I said, well, it's your money. I said, but think about this. The money to borrow is so low right now. If you took that $300,000 and you're borrowing on, if you borrow, put down 20% of it and then just borrow the rest at less than 3%, how much money can this extra money get sitting somewhere? That's the big question.
That's just it. If you are looking for just an honest opinion on what your house is worth, if you're looking for,
Especially
like,
if
what
you're
would you
going
do?
to upgrade.
Right.
That's always a call I love to get. Just be careful where you put your money in for your upgrades. Like Kristen had said earlier, if you're going to upgrade and live there and enjoy it, well, then do it. You're doing it for yourself. That's great.
Right.
But don't do it to sell your home unless, not that you shouldn't do. There might be like some carpet, being
Right.
replaced and
That
things
needs
like
to
that.
be, or painting, or,
But not the whole kitchen
repairs.
renovation to give that to a new buyer. Think you're going to get dollar for dollar. You're not.
right. No, not at all.
You know.
I'd be curious. We're going to have to do a whole episode on what to do to get ready for a listing. And then I also want to do one on what the best and the worst investments that you can make in your house would be. Like, which ones get you the most dollar for dollar? Because I think it's funny how we run into a lot with pools, the cost of a pool, and how many people put a pool in during the pandemic. Really,
So many. I mean, the pool companies just went bonkers.
yeah. I mean, well, we couldn't go anywhere, so you wanted something else to do at your house, So, but then, what are pools running these days? Anywhere from 50 to 100,000
depending
plus.
on how much. Yeah.
And what does an appraiser typically give you for that?
It depends on the area. And I know it's been adjusting somewhat, but it's automatically it's less than half. Automatically. So just depending on the area you live in, I think they're only adjusted like 20 right now. Even with the cost of pools going up, there's only like 20,000 if that adjustment.
Right. And so, great thing to think about that. That kind of goes back to the point that if you're going to invest in something, make sure you're going to enjoy it, right? Enjoy if you're going to put upgrades in the house.
Yeah.
So, but these market reports are available on the website, right? TheCorcoranConnection.com. Go down to St. Cloud and you can find those market reports listed there.
Yep, community tab, and just click on that and you'll get to see the market report.
That's awesome. And thank you guys for joining us. If you can give us a rating on, wherever you listen to your podcast, that greatly helps us. And if you have any other suggestions for topics, we'd love to hear your comments below. You can check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, pretty much wherever you listen. We should be there. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.